You know what I want to know? The men who are genuine, the men who are loving and faithful and responsible. How do you feel about the narrative that is currently permeating social media about toxic masculinity? You know the buzzwords: toxic masculinity, the patriarchy, and all the negative things associated with men. Because social media now is inundated with women telling their stories, women asserting themselves, women coming into being, women seeking and claiming and embracing positions of power, positions of ownership, women declaring that they are quite contented to live alone, to stay alone forever, as opposed to being married or being in a relationship. I'm curious to know, how are the men, the good men, the few good men, how are you taking this? How are you internalizing it? I see a few videos of men who are saying, listen, guys, they're talking to fellow men and they're saying, listen, guys, these women are serious. They are refusing to accept your bullshit, our bullshit. So they're saying to their fellow men, women are refusing to accept our bullshit, and we need to step up. We need to stop the nonsense. We need to come into ourselves and be better persons. I've seen a few videos of men trying to reach other men, and to be honest with you, I think only men can reach other men. I think men are wired that way, and women can preach to men, women can advise men, but I think men are more willing and able to accept the advice and even the directive from other men whom they respect, who they look up to. So I think that's a channel that is going to have to come through. Not to say that we women should not and cannot speak to them directly, but it's best if we speak to other women and try to get other women to understand the reality of things. I think we're just wired to listen to people who share our gender and our situation, and men respect men. They are more likely to listen to men whom they look up to. So it's good that we have some brothers on the internet understanding that, hey, this is a moment where we need to reflect on ourselves as men and encourage other men to pull up themselves, right? So you as a man who know yourself to be genuine, know yourself to be positive, know yourself to love women and respect women, provide for the women in your life, do your best to protect the women in your life. If you know yourself to be this, how do you internalize the narrative? Do you agree with a lot of things that are being said about men? Has this been your experience from you're a child growing up, observing the men in your lives, your fathers, your uncles, your male cousins, your stepfathers, your brothers, when you're together as men, is it true that these are the things you talk about? Is it true that you put women down and laugh at women and share intimate pics and videos amongst yourselves of your girlfriends and wives and exes? Has this been your experience, or do you think it is being very, very far exaggerated? When you get together at work, at the sports bar, at the gym, is it true that these are the things you talk about freely amongst yourself? The intimate details of the women in your lives. We see, and some of the things that we see happening now, like so many men doing away with the women that they are intimate with, whether it's their wife, their girlfriend, longtime girlfriend, completely eradicating that woman. We have seen many, many cases of it in just recent time, but this is something that has been going on. Is it that men just cannot cope with the pressures of life the way women are able to cope? Is it that men and these murder suicide incidents? Is it that you men literally feel that women belong to them? So if the men decide to end their lives, they think it's an automatic component of it for the woman to be taken as well, and the children as well in some cases. Is it that men literally feel that women belong to them? Like chattel, they own them. So she has no option. If you're getting rid of yourself, she must be gotten rid of too, because she is an extension of you. Ah, this whole thing about going back to our grandparents and how our grandparents were married for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And now a lot of women are coming, a lot of the grandparents, a lot of the grandmothers themselves are coming out. I've seen a lot of videos of the grandmas saying, hey, we were not happily married. We were married because we felt it was the only way for us. We had not much education, not much opportunity, not much chance to progress ourselves outside of being married. And we were married and we stayed because it would have been shameful to leave. It would have been unheard of to leave, but it's not because we wanted to stay. I know, I know for sure when I was growing up, I would look at the women in my communities and I would look at my grandmother especially, and I knew that she was not happy. I knew that my grandmother did not have a happy marriage. She had a long marriage. She had 11 children. My grandfather was a known, um, he was known for stepping outside of the marriage. And my grandmother, she found it very hard to deal with this. And there would be quarrels and fights and just noise and contention. I knew she did not have a happy life. And a lot of, I always remember my grandma, and a lot of things that I do it for my grandma, for the life that she never got to live. And looking back at a lot of women in the community, you could sense this. They didn't say it. Sometimes they didn't say it, but you saw the tension, you saw the hurt, you saw the pain, you saw that she was enduring as opposed to enjoying and flourishing. She was enduring. She was unfulfilled. She was unsatisfied. There was so much potential. Sometimes when I think, I sit down and I say, I wonder what my grandma could have been if she had the opportunity. I always wonder about it. Even my mom, I say, I wonder what my mom could have been outside of getting pregnant at 17 years old for someone who was 20 years older than she was. And being caught in a very unhappy marriage, which she eventually had to run away from, right? She had to pack her bags and just go. She was so unhappy. At 17 years old, being pregnant for someone who is 20 years older than you, and having a shotgun marriage to someone who you did not love. I look at the women that I grew up amongst, and a lot of them, I know they were not happy. And I'm thinking, I remember my grandfather said to me once, there was this little girl in our community, and the rumor was she lived with her dad. Her dad was a very much older man. He was probably in his 50s, 60s when she was about 10, thereabout. She was in my age group, and the rumor was that he was molesting her, but nobody did anything about it. She lived with her dad, and he was one of my grandfather's best friends. And I remember later down, my grandfather said, I think this man was molesting this little girl. He said it casually, and I think he was even chuckling about it. And I remember saying to myself, but this is your friend. This is your best friend. So if you suspected that this is what he was doing, why didn't you say something? Why didn't you do something about it? And the fact of the matter is that men know men, and men know a lot of time they are aware of the things that their friends are doing, their brothers are doing, their cousins are doing, their friends are doing. And they do nothing because there's this so-called bro code where you protect other men. So I want to know from the good men, the few good men who we hear are still around, I'm asking you, how do you feel that your brothers, your fathers, your friends, your sons are now being exposed, and women are coming out and saying, this has been my experience, and this is why I no longer want anything to do with any man? A lot of women are saying that. How do you feel? I'm very curious to know.